My name is Tom Tseng, your 2022 Global Business Council Chair of the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. I would like to thank you all for joining us here today. We are honored to have many of our colleagues from around the world to participate in our first Global Summit of 2022 today. We are planning for 2 more Global Summit events later this year to connect with more of our MOU signing partners from around the world. Please follow us for more future updates. In addition, I would like to thank the panelists for giving us invaluable global real estate information. I would be remiss if I did not thank the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors Global Business Council for putting this summit together. And finally, a special thanks to all of you for making this virtual event possible. The purpose of 2022 Global Summit is to promote investment on real estate in USA and our MOU partnering countries and regions, connect with real estate professionals from around the world, and to reduce any international trading barriers. We are so lucky to invite a panel of outstanding speakers. Ms. Nancy Liao is Administrative Coordinator to Chinese Association of Real Estate Brokers in Taiwan. Dr. Jane Youn is the President of Global Real Estate Association of Seoul from Korea, and Mr. Nelson Lee, representing Cameron Consultant Limited from Hong Kong. These panelists will share their current real estate trends and updates in their respective countries and regions. I can't thank our guests enough for coming to support our event, so I invited our association president, Mr. Brian Chen, to give a welcoming speech to our delegations. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you for a wonderful opening, Tom. And I would like, on behalf of the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors, to welcome all the delegations and members who are attending this wonderful global summit. And to also, it is to my honor and pride to announce that this year, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors is celebrating our 100th year centennial celebration. This is a 100 years in existence, and we're looking forward to the next 100 years of great service to our members. And also like to welcome you to this Southern California virtual weather. It is sunny outside. The weather is great. I'm sure the weather is great wherever your location is. And I want to kick off this global summit with this. I know the real estate market is facing challenges right now, but please remember, where there is challenge, there are opportunities. So we need to start focusing on where the real estate opportunities are in these challenging times. Global economy is facing lots of challenge, but I do believe global real estate will continue to thrive with right people seeking opportunities during challenging times. So we always have this saying, another person's misfortune is my fortune. So I would like to welcome you to a healthy discussion on the global real estate market and how we can seize the opportunity. Maybe the best opportunity in the last 3 years. Thank you.
A few housekeeping items before we start the program. Please be aware that all participants will be muted during the session. After each presenter speaks, there will be a 5 to 10 minute question and answering time. Should you have any question or comment, please enter it into the chat box, and our Vice Chair, Mauricio Tapatio, will help moderate the question for you at the end of the presentation. This session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. First, I would like to introduce to you Chinese Association of Real Estate Brokers, known as CAREB. CAREB is a brokerage association alliance from Taiwan. Similar to our NAR, it sets professional standards for Taiwanese real estate professional standards. Our association relationship dates back to 2010, It is one of our first international MOU signing partners when our forerunner leadership conducted outbound trade missions. If you have any questions for our presenter, please type in the chat box below. Please give a warm welcome to our friend from Taiwan, Miss Nancy Liao. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hey, so thank you again to invite us to attend this global summit. And yeah, I'm glad to see you guys in this online meeting. And today I will just simply share the information about Taiwan's real estate market during the COVID-19. So about Taiwan, it's located in the East Asia and the area around 30,000 square kilometers. And our population is about 23.3 million. And I just introduced our three major cities in Taiwan because over 70% the number of the housing transactions are in these cities. So it's Taipei cities, as you guys know, and because the new Taipei city around the Taipei city, and the Taoyuan city, the Taichung city, and the Tainan city, and Kaohsiung city. And we also focused these cities about the housing price and the transaction, and to above the trend of the real estate market in Taiwan. And so now Taiwan, there are 40,000 real estate agents and brokers, and among 7,000 real estate agents in Taiwan as well. So during the COVID-19 in the past 2 years, I would say Taiwan did very good job to countering the pandemic most of the time. Besides, except the last May to August, we also locked down for 3 years. And also now it's a high peak in Taiwan now. Okay, so accordingly, and the global inflation, the investors and people move their funds to the real estate market in Taiwan, and it caused the house price and the transaction soaring in many countries, and so does Taiwan. So the number of the housing transaction hit 7 years high in 2021. And it hit 348 units in Taiwan. As this soaring, the Taiwan's government start to take the measure to against the speculation and try to cool off the real estate market since last year. And the housing market in Tainan and Kaohsiung is benefiting from the growing influence of the contract chip maker called the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Limited Company. Yeah, also called TSMC. So the TSMC built a new factory, and manufacturing company invest in the Tainan and the Kaohsiung Scientist Industry Park. So it caused the housing price is grows rapidly in these two cities. Okay, so the housing price per pin in our six major cities. In Taiwan, you usually use the pin as the unit to measure the size of the house. So per pin is equals as the 3.3 square meters. So the house price in Taipei in last year average is 640,000 per pin. And as you guys know, Taipei is one of the world's most expensive cities. Okay, so in the housing price in Taipei now exceeds 25 million per unit in the 2021, and the housing price rose average 77% than last year, and the highest growth rate was in the Taichung city and the Tainan city. Okay, so the Taichung city, why is the house price growth? Because there are the newly launched metro line and new openly shopping mall in the one specific districts. So the housing price of the new house in there is rose more than 70%. And also Taichung was voted by Taiwan the best city to move and live in these 5 years. So it attract buyers to buy the house and the lands nearby there. Okay. And also Thailand, like I said before, because the TSMC built a new wafer web and the manufacturing industry invest in the Thailand's scientists industry park. So the Thailand's house prices grows very rapidly. So there's the number of the housing transaction in this first 4 months of the 2022. So in this year, the housing transaction hit a 9 years high of 115 units and up 3.2% as the same period last year. So it's still the market is still booming. Usually we got the push showing in the February because we have the Chinese New Year's holiday for 1 week, and also most our agency and government department start surfing and start working. So the housing transaction data will be postponed to show in March. So that's why usually we got the lowest showing in the February every year. And the housing percentage in April have to be noticed because although the figure represent just 0.9% decrease compared with the last April, but it dropped 12% in 1 month. And we saw the reason probably is because in this March, Taiwan has followed in the footstep of the Fed in US and increased the interest rates by 0.25 percentage points. And so our mortgage interest rates now rest to 1.65% from 1.4%. And also in this March, the Russia and the Ukraine war broke out and caused the shut off the oil and the grain supplies. So, so caused the serious global inflation from last year. Since last year, Taiwan's government take the more tightening measure to curb the inflation and the rising housing price. So now the buyers and the general public turned conservative to purchase the house. So the housing price in this major city in these first 4 months rose 3% average. And the data shows the housing price keep growing slightly, despite our government tried to curb the housing price. But the specific like the Taichung city and the Thailand city, the special district house price rose too fast. Now it's down now. So the measure the government was taken has an effect on the crop housing price and reduce the speculation now, I'd say. But according to data, I think we think housing price will still rise in these years. Okay, so about the factor to inspect the Taiwan's real estate market in these years. The first factor will be our central bank interest rates. Like its peers around the world to combat the inflation. And also our government now trying to take measure to tighten selective credit controls and mortgage rules. Yeah, and it's widely believed to be the government to be playing the further tighten monetary measure. And also the Russia and Ukraine were still close the worst oil and the grain price hike and growth inflationary pressure, and so now the buyers in Taiwan and general population perspective to purchase the house now. Yeah. And also about COVID-19, because now Taiwan is in the high peak in this from this May. The Omicron spread rapidly, and now the daily case in Taiwan will more than 8,000 per day. So according to data, the housing position in May still raised 1.8%, but it's dropped 7% compared with last year, and it's estimated the transaction will plug in June because the people in Taiwan avoid to going out after daily COVID-19 case hit more than 80,000 per day. Okay, and also now the Shanghai just finished a 2-month-long lockdown, but these two months impact the global supply chains, and also Taiwan has a very many factory in Shanghai, so it also caused the global inflation now. So now the global inflation is still higher. So it's estimated the housing price will still rise, but I think within the growth rates will slow down in these years. And okay, the final factor is because Taiwan now is have the labor shortage in the construction industry from like maybe in these 2 years because the COVID-19 and workers from overseas cannot enter Taiwan. So all these factors will interrelated, and so like the 2022 real estate market forecast, we will say the housing price and the transaction will keep growing, but the growth rate will slow down. So it's the 22 the real estate market outlook in this year. Okay, so about the foreign buyer invest in the Taiwan real estate in 2021, the number of foreign bought Taiwan real estate was 1,298 buildings and had 2,000 land transactions. And in this Q1, the foreign buyers buying the 262 the buildings, fall by 6% compared last years. But the number of the land transaction was 807, slightly higher than the last years. And so usually the majority of the transaction will be the overseas corporation and the foreign corporation to invest to build the factory and also buy the house in Taiwan. Okay, and the Taipei and the new Taipei city was the area registering the highest number of the land and building transaction. And last year, the Taiwan got the highest growth rates. So if now if the foreign buyers want to buy a house in Taiwan, at first they make sure the country has the reciprocal real estate purchasing agreement with Taiwan. And now, as I know, there are 77 countries have this agreement with Taiwan now, including the most state of the United States, and also including Korea, Japan, and most countries in the world. Okay. And usually the mortgage to foreign buyers and individual or the business usually is just 40 to 60% mortgage they can apply from bank, but this except the depends on the different bank, and also they will check your job, your salary, and your financial situation to decide how much the mortgage they will they can give to you. Okay. So usually the foreign buyers, the business will choose to pay in full if they want to buy the house and the land or the in Taiwan. So since last year, the Taiwan's government has raised the house and land transaction income tax, and also apply to the foreign individual and the business to against the protest, the speculation. So the tax will now need to pay 45% on gains from the sale of the real estate within 2 years, and still need to pay 35% over 2 years. And if the buyer buy the house in Taiwan, they need to pay like the house tax and land tax annually. So usually we'll leave it 1% of the current asset value, and the land tax is probably been 1% of the current assets value. Yeah. So each the May and November we will pay the house tax and the land tax. Okay. So now if the foreign buyer wants to buy the house in the Taiwan, we will say it's suggested to invest in the long term, because in the short term will cost most tax. So, but now the housing market in Taiwan is still blooming, and during the COVID-19, we still have the stable economic development, and also the complex supply chain. So according to data, the foreign buyers and the overseas company still invest the house in Taiwan. Okay, but now just recommend to invest in a long-term approach. And that's a wrap, and thank you for listening. Sorry, I'm not good in English. Yep. And I just...
Thank you, Nancy. That was great presentation. Mauricio, can you moderate the questions if we have any?
Absolutely, Tom. Yes, that was a great presentation. I echo Tom's sentiments. And Nancy, well, you know, the question we have is how strict are the COVID-19 both travel guidelines currently in Taiwan?
Now Taiwan, because in the high peak, so the government start to, because maybe we will open the border maybe in July, because they plan to open the border to tourists in June. But now we got still high peak in this month. Our government just discussing to postpone the open border plan in July. So now the tourists still need to have the 7 days quarantine, after they enter the Taiwan.
And with that, even for local people in Taiwan, how is it after a lockdown? What is the feeling like amongst the population? Is there a fear? Is there more confidence that there has been now? They're no longer a lockdown, but how is the attitude in Taiwan?
I will say Taiwan, we 3 months, just like we just followed the policy the government give us, and people avoid to going out. So I would say people were nervous and worry about the COVID-19 daily case is higher since last years. But I think after 1 month lockdown, and people just used to lockdown and just do the normal daily life again. Yeah.
So I have another question, Nancy. Do you pay annual property tax in Taiwan, or is it only when you sell or buy?
Yeah, we should pay like house tax and land tax annually. And yeah, if you have the house, you need to pay the tax annually. And also now, if you want to sell the house in 2 years or 1 year, like the government, you need to pay more tax because the government try to curb the speculation and the house price. The tax will be higher now.
Are you seeing an increase or decrease in global interest out of Taiwan?
The government in Taiwan will follow step like our city to raise the interest rates against the global inflation, and they say they want to the house price will pass the soft landing in this year. It's believed that will do the more tightening interest rates policy now.
Wonderful, wonderful, Nancy. Well, I know we have to continue with our program, but I want to thank you for presenting and offering so much information about your beautiful, about Taiwan, for sure.
Thank you, and thank you to bear with my poor English because I'm not good at English.
You did great. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you, Nancy. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Youn from Global Real Estate Association of Seoul, known as GRAS, from Korea, to introduce to us about Korean real estate market under the influence of COVID. Dr. Youn is the president of the Global Real Estate Association of Seoul. She is a PhD in real estate studies, professor in Hanyang University, and designated certified international property specialist by the NAR. She also served as the chairman of international cooperation in Korea Association of Realtors. GRAS signed Memorandum of Understanding with us last year in June of 2021. We also met at the NAR Realtor Conference in San Diego last November. Dr. Youn will speak in Korean and have a translator for us. If you have any question for Dr. Youn, please type in the chat box below. Dr. Youn, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a founding chair, Global Real Estate Association of Seoul. I'm a Jane Youn. I will introduce it with an interpreter. I'm sorry. In Korea, first of all, in Korea, population growth rate. 미애 씨,
네네.
한국은
페이지로 할게요. 네.
예. 한국은 현재 인구가 5,100만 명이에요. 5,100만 현재 5,100만 명인데 2019년 말에 코비드 이후로 인구가 줄어서 현재는 5천만을 조금 5천만에 거의 다가가고 있고 코비드로 인한 영향이 인구 성장률에 많이 영향을 줬습니다.
Talking about the Korean population growth rate, in fact, the Korean population is about 51 million. However, since 2019, because of COVID-19, the population has decreased. So now it's about slightly less than 50 million people.
한국은 현재 그 인구가 상당히 줄고 있는데 자연적으로 주는 인구 증가율은 굉장히 빠르게 하락하고 있는데 출산율은 훨씬 줄고 있고 사망자 수는 계속 유지를 하고 그대로인데 출생률은 굉장히 줄고 있습니다. 2015년 이후에 저출산 기조가 심화되면서 현재는 2020년 기준으로 출산율이 0.84명으로 OECD 국가 중에 1위를 기록하고 있습니다.
Also, if you look at the file, one of the big characteristics of a Korean population is that it is decreasing, especially the birth rate is rapidly decreasing compared to the death rate. So if you look at this file, this death rate is slightly even going upper than the birth rate. So now it's less than 1 person, like 0.84. That's the growth rate for population.
한국의 인구 고령화율은 급속하게 증가하고 있어서 2019년 기준 14.9%로 1970년에 비해서 5배로 증가한 수준이고 계속 증가해서 2067년에는 46.5%로 높아질 전망이고요. 이 인구 고령화가 급속하게 돼서 한국의 경제 성장에 많은 장애를 갖고 오고 있습니다.
So the aging is taking place very quickly. So compared to 2019, the aging speed is has increased about 5 times. And if you look at the chart, by 2067, we are expecting the rate will reach about 46.5.
코로나 이후에 한국은 전체 56개 국가 중에 평균 집값 상승률이 10.3%로 터키가 1위를 했고 한국이 56개 국가 중에 4위를 할 정도로 집값이 급격하게 상승했습니다. 이런 국가들의 상승률을 보면 대부분의 국가가 집값이 굉장히 빠르게 오른 국가들의 대부분의 특징은 경기 부양책을 펼친 선진국으로서 주택담보대출을 완화하거나 지원금을 지급하는 그런 것들이 영향을 준 것으로 보입니다.
So as you can see in the graph, so since COVID-19, the Korea has shown a very rapid increase in housing prices. So as you can see here, the number one, Turkey ranked number 1, and the Korea ranked number 4 in terms of housing price growth rate. And I think one of the reasons, and I think those countries that have shown very big increase are kind of advanced countries that have the government support, provide a lot of support because COVID-19, like a lot of funds, a lot of money stuff, so that it boosts people to buy more houses.
이러한 통계는 2019년 4분기부터 코비드-19이 시작된 2019년 4분기부터 2021년 작년 4분기까지 추세입니다.
This trend took place from fourth quarter 2019 throughout the fourth quarter 2021. So during the COVID-19 period, this is the trend of housing market.
주택 매매 가격 변동률을 보면 잠깐의 하락기가 있기는 했지만 2021년 6월의 가격을 100으로 잡았을 때 1985년 31.5에서 5에서 시작해서 지난 코로나 기간 중에서도 꾸준히 상승을 해왔습니다. 그래서 현재 주택 매매 가격 변동률은 굉장히 주택가가 상승해 있고 현재 금리와 물가 상승률에서도 물가가 꾸준히 상승하고 있는데도 불구하고 집값이 하락하고 있질 않습니다. 그러나 매도자, 매수자 모두 관망세여서 거래는 그렇게 활발하게 이루어지고 있지 않습니다.
Although there has been some decrease over the time for last 30 years, so when you see like the price of June 2021 at 100, let's say the price in June 2021 is 100, then the price in 1985 is only 31.5, which means there has been 3 times increase from 1985 to 2021. And also the interest rate here in Korea currently is 1.75, and the inflation rate is about 5.4. So everything is increasing very rapidly, and the housing price is also pretty high. However, I don't think the transactions are actually taking place very actively. The market is not very busy these days, although the prices are very high.
한국의 부동산 관습에 대해서 얘기를 하겠습니다. 한국의 부동산은 매매가 거래됐을 경우 바이어와 셀러 둘 다 수수료를 지불하고 있습니다. 그래서 거래 구간별로 매매를 했을 경우에는 0.4에서 0.7%고 그리고 임대의 경우는 0.3에서 0.6%로 매우 낮은 수수료를 보입니다. 그래서 현재 정부와의 계속된 갈등이 브로커와 정부와의 계속된 갈등이 일어나.
So next, I'm going to talk about Korean real estate practice. So usually when there's any transaction, sellers and buyers both have to pay the fee to the brokers, and the fee will be about 0.4%, between 0.4 and 0.7 for sales, and also for 0.3, between 3 and 6 for leasing. So when it comes to this fee calculation, there's conflict between brokers and the government.
외국인에 대한 한국 정부의 외국인에 대한 정책은 2007년 외국인 인구가 100만이 넘으면서 서울시는 서울의 15개 지역의 외국인 주거 밀집 지역과 관련돼서 상권을 중심으로 글로벌 정책을 펴왔습니다. 그래서 글로벌 정책을 펴서 이를 육성하고 분류해서 현재까지 관리하고 있습니다. 그래서 지역별로 보면 전통적으로 미군이 있는 용산과 강남구 그리고 종로구에 밀집돼 있는 걸 볼 수 있습니다. 이러한 외국은 국가별로 지역에 이제 특성화가 돼 있는데 외국인 체류는 꾸준히 증가하고 있다가 코비드-19 이후로 외국인이 약간 주는 현상을 보였습니다.
Next is about foreigners policy here in Korea. So after the foreigners population reached like 100 million people in 2007, the government had set up some special policies for foreigners, and we have set up the global, it's called global zones in Seoul. So many foreigners are staying one of these three big areas in Seoul. One is Yongsan, Gangnam, and Jongno. Yongsan is known for the U.S. military base, and Gangnam and Jongno, they are all a big like district for commercial market. So the number of foreigners staying in Korea has been increasing steadily. However, after COVID-19, the number of foreigners has decreased.
외국인의 매수 정책과 세금에 대해서 말씀드리겠습니다. 외국인이 집을 사서 매도를 했을 경우에 양도소득세는 구간별 금액에 따라서 6%에서 45%가 되고 이 주택을 매수했을 때 취득세는 만약에 2년을 보유하고 있다가 2년 후에 판다고 가정을 했을 경우에 21%에서 24%가 됩니다. 국적별로 외국인이 한국의 아파트를 취득한 금액별로 보면 중국이 1위고 그다음에 미국이 2위고 그다음에 캐나다, 대만 순입니다.
Next is about foreigners housing buyer loan policy and tax. So as you can see here, the capital gain tax is somewhere between 6 and 45%, depending on the price of the house. And the acquisition tax, you have to pay about between 21 to 24 if you're holding more than 2 years. And the chart in the next shows the country rank. So which foreigners from what country actually buy more properties here in Korea? So number one shows China. Chinese bought a lot of ranked number one when it comes to foreigners buying real estate in Korea. So they bought about that number. And the second is America. Next is Canada, Taiwan, Australia, Japan, and the others.
한국의 이전 정부에서 대출 규제를 굉장히 강하게 했기 때문에 주택 매수가 쉽지 않았습니다. 그 반면에 외국인들은 본국에서 대출을 해서 집을 살 수 있는 그런 방향으로 흘러갔기 때문에 외국인 매수가 지나치게 많아져서 현재 바뀐 정부에서는 특별히 중국에 많은 집이 매매가 됐기 때문에 중국에 대해서 어떠한 특별한 제재를 하는 방법을 생각하고 있습니다.
We just had a new election last March, so we have a new administration. The previous administration put a lot of very severe regulation in the loan market in Korea. So foreigners who could get the loan from their own country, for example, like Chinese, they got the loan from China and they bought a lot of properties here in Korea. And that was one of the reasons the foreigners increased a lot. But foreigners who wanted to buy property in Korea the number of foreigners increased a lot because Koreans couldn't buy them due to the harsh loan regulation. But now we have a new administration, and I think that the new administration will have some new regulations to restrict foreigners from buying more property in Seoul, in Korea.
외국인이 한국에서 주택을 사는 매매 과정은 이렇습니다. 계약을 체결하고 반드시 은행에 신고를 하게 되어 있습니다. 그래서 외국인이 주택 매수할 경우는 은행에 신고를 하고 신고인이 국내 계좌로 본국에서 국내 계좌로 송금을 하게 되고 그리고 마지막 단계로 비로소 등기소에 신청을 해서 등기권리증을 받게 됩니다.
Next is how foreigners buy properties in Korea. So first, you want to make a contract, you want to sign a contract, and then you have to report to the bank, or mostly Korean bank, that you have purchased the property. And then the foreigner will have to pay to send wire transfer the property amount to the bank account. And then lastly, they will register, they will clear up those titles thing. So finishing the registration process.
오케이, 최근에 집값이 급격하게 상승해 있고 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 한국이 4위일 정도로 주택가가 굉장히 상승하고 있어서 정부에서는 한국의 부동산 투자를 외국인에게 장려하기보다는 뭔가 좀 억제하는 쪽으로 그렇게 흘러가고 있습니다. 그렇지만 앞으로 새로운 정부에서는 어떻게 될지 잘 모르겠습니다.
Like I said before, Korea ranked number 4 in terms of housing price increase rate during the COVID-19. So Korea ranked number 4. So the government is trying to put some regulation, trying to like a little bit reduce the demand for foreigners trying to buy property in Korea. So now we have a new administration, so we'll have to see how the policy will be going.
들어주셔서 감사합니다. 이제까지 저는 글로벌 서울 그라스를 창립을 했고 작년까지 제가 회장이었습니다. 하지만 지금은 더 큰 단체인 11만이 종사하고 있는 한국공인중개사 협회에서 국제위원장을 하고 있습니다. 글로벌 체어라고 하시면 돼요.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. I'm a founder of GRAS, and I was taking role as a president until last year. But now I don't work for GRAS, but instead I'm working as a global chair at the CAR, which is the much bigger association. So thank you for listening.
I'll get started on some questions. Respective to foreign buyers, would you anticipate more cash purchases since loans are being restricted more?
외국인 바이어들에 대해서 지금 더 아무래도 규제가 더 심해질 거라고 생각을 하시나요?
근데 현 정부가 바뀌었기 때문에 앞으로는 굉장히 유연하게 대처할 거로 봅니다. 이전 정부에서 그렇게 했습니다.
Because we have a new administration, I anticipate they will act more flexibly. We anticipate more flexible measures and policy because the previous government was very strict. So we anticipate something opposite from the previous.
So would that also, I'm sorry.
부동산 부분은 한국 경제에 있어서 굉장히 큰 부분을 차지하는데 이전 정부에서 부동산 정책에 대해서 실패했기 때문에 정부가 바뀐 요인도 있기 때문에 현 정부에서는 부동산 정책을 굉장히 유연하게 대처할 걸로 보입니다.
The real estate market is obviously very big. It's taking a very important role in South Korean economic market. And one of the reasons the previous government failed in this election is because their policy on the real estate market, because people here in Korea believe the previous policy failed the market. So now the new administration will have to come up with something new where they act in a different way.
Perfect. You know, perhaps I didn't understand this correctly, but with respect to the global zones, are foreigners permitted to invest outside of those global zones?
아까 글로벌 존 얘기가 나왔었잖아요. 근데 제가 잘 이해했는지 모르겠지만 그 외국인들이 그 글로벌 존 안에서 투자를 할 수 있다는 건가요? 아니면 그 밖에서만 투자를 할 수 있다는 건가요?
아, 그런 뜻은 아니고 그 지역의 특성을 살려서 예를 들어서 중국인이 많이 상업적으로 굉장히 활성화된 지역은 상업 지역으로 분류하고 외국인이 많이 살고 있는 지역은 주거존으로 분류를 해서 그 특성별로 육성을 하고 있다는 얘기예요. 상업 지역, 주거 지역으로 나뉘어서 각각 특화를 시키고 있다는 얘기.
The global zone has nothing to do with foreigners' investment. It's more like just policy terms. So we just classify the area. If it's about residential area, we just call it as residential zone, and the other like it's a commercial zone. Like
Okay.
that.
Very good. Thank you. I have two more questions. What is the travel policy currently in South Korea? Any quarantine required?
현재 그 코로나 이후에 지금 현재 여행자 가이드라인 알고 계시나요? 정책? 요즘도 격리를 하고 있는지?
예, 요즘은 격리를 하고
제가
있지
대충
않습니다.
찾아봤거든요.
격리 해제됐습니다.
격리 해제됐죠.
예.
So quarantine is not in place anymore. So as long as you got the vaccine, of course. So if you have that proof, if you have that evidence that you got the vaccine, you don't have to be under quarantine.
Very good. And then one more question. Where do you see foreign investors coming in from?
Rightly? In the future?
Yes, I would say overall, the kind of the global landscape. I mean, where is the money coming? Is it primarily from the United States, or where would you say it is coming in from?
외국 자금이 어디에서 가장 많이 들어온다고 생각하시나요?
외국 자금이 미국하고 중국이에요.
아까 중국 그거였죠.
예,
네,
예.
중국하고. The big two countries will be China and US.
Okay, very good. Well, I think that's it. So again, we'll resume with our program, but thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you so
Youn.
much.
Next, we have Mr. Nelson Lee, representing Cameron Consultant Limited from Hong Kong. Mr. Lee signed Memorandum of Understanding with our association in 2018 and has been a great friend to our association since then. Mr. Lee has served in Hong Kong real estate and banking sector for many, many years. Not only is he familiar in real estate, he's also a loan broker in Hong Kong. Mr. Nelson Lee will be presenting the Hong Kong real estate market update. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat box below. Please take it away, Nelson.
Hi, everybody. Good morning from Hong Kong. So I would like to say thank you to the Western Gabriel Valley Realtors, President Brian Chen, and the Global Business Council Chair Tom and Mauricio, and also my good friend Sun Zhang and Albert Tran to invite me to join this seminar and to share the property market in Hong Kong. So for this slide, we have some basic demographic information of the Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is one of the two special administrative regions of Hong Kong, of China, and the other one is Macau. And today we have about 7.6 million of population here. Most of them are from Cantonese, and we are speaking a lot of Cantonese and Chiu-Chow and other languages. Besides, we have some people from the South Asian, which including the Indian, the Nepalese, Pakistanians, and Vietnamese refugees before. And also we have an international city over there. We have Canadian, the British, American, Korean, and also some Japanese working in Hong Kong. For the COVID-19 pandemics in 2020, the market sentiment is really bad and is record only around 3,900 transactions in last month in both primary and secondary market. But in secondary market, it's still slowed down for the past few months due to the fifth wave of the Omicron pandemic. But in the primary property sector, the buying atmosphere is still strong. The average asking price is at 1,900 to 3,000 square feet for the general market property. For the real estate market trend under the current inflation rate, Hong Kong is a very small land. We have limited land supply, and also we have a very huge demand of property unit. So in Hong Kong, the youngsters, they want to have their own property once they have reached the legal age at 18. So the parents will sponsor them with the down payment from 10% to 40% for the purchase of the property. With the property purchase size under 1.3 million US, the down payment is only at 10%, plus the government stamp duty and the solicitor conveyance fee. And one of the factors will affect the property market is the interest rate increment by the US Federal Reserve. But still, the bank didn't follow the uptrend of the interest rate for the time being. So the buying power is still strong for at the moment. In Hong Kong, for the secondary market, it's a buyer's market. Some of the Hong Kong people wanted to apply for the UK 5+1 immigration program. So in order to avoid the heavy capital gain taxation in UK, so some of the selling transaction is recorded at the secondary market with a quick sell posted with 10 to 15% off of the market price. But in the primary market, the buying signal is still strong. For the most of the primary market have sold out in the first day, and also developer will also offer what we call a breadth plan. That means the buyer who have the breadth could get the mortgage loan from the developer. So the real estate practice in Hong Kong. So once when you bought the property and you have to sign the preliminary sales and purchase agreement for the, and then after 14 days, you have to go to the solicitor firm and then to sign a formal sales and purchase agreement. And the completion date, that means the handover date will be around 1.5 months to 2 months. It depends on the negotiation of the both parties. In between, the buyers could get the mortgage loan from the bank. For the agency commissions, for the primary markets, only developers will pay the commission to the agents. For the secondary market, both seller and purchase have to pay the commission to the realtors. And also Hong Kong, the government in Hong Kong, they have applied a special stamp duty for the foreign buyers. So once if you are not a permanent resident in Hong Kong, so you have to apply for a buyer stamp duty, the BSD, at a total of 30% of the purchase price to pay to the government. For the Hong Kong local government, for the local permanent residents, if you have to buy the second property, you have to add another 15% buyer BSD. And also the government has applied for a special stamp duty to stop the speculation since 2012. If the property just sold in the first 6 months, 20% of the selling price of tax will be applied. And from the 7th to 12th month, you have to pay another 15% of the selling price. And from the 13th month to 36th month, you have to apply 10% tax on the selling price. So for the foreign buyer loan policy and the selling process, so the Hong Kong Monetary Authority didn't apply for lending regulations to the banks to the foreign buyers. So the bank could not make her own commercial decision. No capital gain in Hong Kong is applied except what I have mentioned, as SSD in the last slide. For the SSD issue, it just repeat here over here. So the government tourist policies, as of today, the government is still implement a 7 days hotel quarantines policy versus the 21 days before in March. So also they have applied for place-specific flight suspension mechanisms for the inbound flights of airlines with only 5 COVID-19 confirmed cases or above found on the same flight for guiding the importation. So that's why the tourists to Hong Kong has a drastic drop since March 2020. So here are some of the major residence sales transactions in Hong Kong in the last few months. So I have a double star on the Mount Nicholson unit. So we can just share the unit price on the next slide. This is the record high transaction in 2022. This project is called the Mount Nicholson, and the selling price is almost at 75 million US. So the unit size is only at 4,230 square feet, and the price per square feet is at 17,000 something. So it's record in this January. So it's a luxury house in Hong Kong. So compare with the luxury price, there's a nano unit called the T Plus. So their net area is only at 141 square feet, and the asking price is at US 384,000, which represented 2,700 per square feet in Hong Kong. You can see the huge difference against the Mount Nicholson. And also I can just share this funny things. This is a nano bathtub with a length of 2.3 feet, and the width is at 1.8 feet. This is a bathtub within a popular project in Hong Kong. So you can just use it to wash your own foot. And also we can share that some of the partition units in Hong Kong. Some people have partitioned the commercial unit or some residential unit into several small units. So the living environment here is quite poor. And this is most horrible one, the cage home. You can find that those people are living on inside the cage. Okay, so this is ridiculous, which you can find in Hong Kong. Okay, for the outlook in 2022, so due to the Omicron pandemic of the 5th wave, and will be followed by the 6th or 7th. So the government has downgraded its full year forecast of economic growth from 1.1 to 2%, from the previous at 2 to 3.5%. So the unemployment rate in Q1 is also at 5%, representing 119,000 jobless people. So the airlines, hotel, automobiles, catering, tourism, retail business have the most big impact. The government also applied for a minimum residential unit net area at 280 square feet policy. The first piece of land tender has been bought. Maybe some of the reason regarding this policy. Besides, as I mentioned before, the UK government has implemented a 5+1 year visa program. So some of the Hong Kong British national overseas, the BNO passport holder, have applied for this program. So the secondary market is a bit of downside trend for 10 to 15%, as they want to capitalize the property as soon as possible. So we have 104,000 people to make application during the launch in July 2021. Again, the quick sell policy. So also the uptrend of interest rate of the U.S. Federal Reserve, but the bank in Hong Kong did not follow the increment of the prime rate yet. Also, some impact for the Russian and Ukraine war, and the lockdown of the China and Hong Kong border. Due to the shortage of the resident unit supply, the government has addressed for the land out tomorrow vision, which includes 1,700 hectares reclamation project, which will provide 400,000 homes for 1.1 million people, of which 70% of the homes will be the public housing. So this is for all the presentation today.
Thank you very much, Nelson.
Yeah, perfect. So I do have a question. Christina Fu is asking, what is the public housing and who can qualify?
The public housing is launched by the government. So those people from 1 to 4 or 5 persons within a family, they have income level restrictions. So normally the waiting time on us to apply for public housing is from 5.5 years to 6 years from the day one of the application after the approval.
Wonderful. And the units that are being constructed, are they advancing pretty rapidly, or is it taking a long time to construct them?
Yeah, it will take a long time to make the construction of the public housing. Yeah.
Very good. So Tom is asking if one sells their Hong Kong investment property after the 36-month period, does the tax burden get removed at that point?
Yes, that is called the SST. So after if the owner sell the property on the 37th month, so no capital gain tax will be applied.
Very good, very good. And how about global inflation? I think you touched on it briefly. How has that affected the overall economic outlook for Hong Kong?
As I mentioned before, the primary market is still hot here. So people are, the people in Hong Kong, they always want to buy their own home, even the 141 square feet unit. So that's why the buying signal in the primary market is still very strong.
Well, that's encouraging. So I do have another question. Amy Kwan's asking, what's the capital outflow situation like in Hong Kong now? And where are the capital flow? Where is it going to, I believe is what she's referring to.
I heard from my friend from working from a bank, most of them are moving to their capitals to the Singapore, those offshore countries, and also to the UK, to the America, and the Canada and Australia.
Excellent, excellent. And then, again, I think you might have touched on this already, but just to cover this one more time, are there what are the travel restrictions like for Hong Kong currently?
Once you return to Hong Kong, then you have the 7 days hotel quarantine, and also we are compulsory to wear our mask at the public area. You have to vaccinate 3 doses before you enter into the restaurant, the cinema, or the spa, or the bar. So the bar opened just a few days before. A 500 area of the bar with 700 people inside. So the confirmed cases has been double up once the bar has been reopened.
Sure. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And let's hope that it continues on that path. But thank you so much. I think that's all the questions for now. So I will give it back to Tom at this point. But thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you, Nelson. Next, I'll be also sharing some of our market snapshot and analysis in the US market. This year, we hear a lot of new keywords: stagflation, inflation, And a lot of people are wondering, is the house market under a bubble? Are we having a recession? Or how is the war going to influence our market? Next page, please. So first of all, you can see our data. This is data provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics and prepared by the National Association of Realtors. In 2020, January, we had about 15 million jobs in the USA. Sorry, 150 million jobs in the USA. And right after March, where our quarantine started, we lost 20 million jobs in March of 2020. And ever since, it has been slowly recovering. Now we are pretty much back to the pre-pandemic payroll jobs. This payroll job does not include realtors. So it's people on W-2. And we are, like many other countries, we are facing a high labor shortage. On the blue line on the bottom is the demand for work. Right now, it has been about 11 million demand for work, but we only get about 6 million people who are looking for a job. The red line is the people looking for a job. In March, we had a lot of unemployment and a lot of people looking for a job. And nowadays, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of people want to participate in our labor force. As you can see, after the 2020 March, we had a huge dip in the labor force participation rate. After COVID, many people decided to retire early, and our retiring age is reducing at this moment. Right now, because of the labor shortage, so we're happy to see that the wage growth is raising by 6% annually, and there's a high worker shortage. However, this wage growth is being wiped out by our price inflation. The newest inflation rate, CPI index, is at 8.5%. So all the wage increase, we're still not able to make up for the price going up. Here is the breakdown of which inflation component is rising. We had a huge rise in the gasoline price, especially after the war. And also, we are also drilling less in America for the past few days. Because the new cars is not able to produce in time with the chip shortage, people are going back to the used cars, and the used car price has gone up 35%. Same as to airfare, it has been under a high influence. So overall, these are the reasons why we are paying more for our clothes, for things. And here is a historical data from year 2000. Our median home price has gone up significantly and more than doubled since our 2010, 2011 bottom line. So, and also to the 2007, 2008 peak, we are also close to double of that. So that leads to many people wondering, are we hitting a bubble? Here is our mortgage rates. The red line is the Federal Reserve interest rate, which is the cost of money to the banks. And the higher, darker line above is what the consumers are paying interest rate for. In the early 1990s and late 1980s, I know we have 2-digit interest rates. And now, basically, since the 2010 and the past few years, the Federal Reserve interest rate has been historical low, close to zero. But trying to fix the high inflation, so the Federal has announced that we're going to increase interest rate by 50 basis point, which is 0.5%. It just happened earlier last month. But you can see the darker line is going way up on the right. Because the Fed also announced that we will be doing multiple increases over the later of this year and also possibly later next year. So the market has already anticipated the growth and calculated that into the loan they make today. So people are looking at close to 5% or maybe higher than 5% interest rate in USA. This is the monthly mortgage payment for the same house from 1 year ago versus now. About 1 year ago, most of the people take a $400,000 loan. And the interest rate was a historical low. They were taking a 3% interest rate, which means their monthly payment is about $1,686. Very, very cheap, very, very affordable. And because of the housing market shortage and a very cheap money, so we had a lot of demand and people were bidding $50,000 above asking, $100,000 above asking, causing them to end up taking a higher loan as well. But just over the last 3 months, our interest rate hiked from 3% to 5%. And when they're in the loan process, they were initially thinking 480,000 loan at 3%, I can take it, no problem. But all of a sudden the lenders say, hey, you are facing a 5% interest rate now, which your payment would be $2,606, a good $1,000 higher than what they anticipated. So this is causing, next page, causing our current pending transactions that people who agreed into contract, they are canceling because people suddenly realize that they cannot afford the loan. So this is the reason why some people are speculating there is going to be a recession or the market is going down. However, the chief economics, Lawrence Youn from the National Association of Realtors, disagrees because back in the early 2000s, we see a lot of inventory and inventory is still on the rise. However, for the past 4 or 5 years straight, we have been an inventory shortage, a huge shortage. We are ready to have more inventory right now, but it's gonna take up some time for these inventory to release and sell out. Right now, we are looking at about 2 months of inventory at this moment. There is also a mortgage delinquency. So the black or gray line that you see with a huge spike on the right, that is the mortgage delinquency with 90 days or higher. So in 2020 Q1, when we first announced the COVID moratorium and lockdown, a lot of people are not able to pay their mortgage. And people are slowly paying off their mortgage right now, so that delinquency number is slowly going down. And maybe due to the government policy, we were not able to evict and we were not able to foreclose at the time. So we are not seeing any foreclosure starts and not foreclosure inventory at this moment. Hence, the supply is still at really, really low point. What about the cash deals? They're still buying. We have never seen so many people buying with cash before. We have all the investors are buying. We have some Zillow and the iBuyers, the technology buyers who are buying properties. So there's a lot of hot money. There's a lot of cash flowing around the market. The anticipation is that real estate is still gonna go up. We also tracked data from 1970s. 1970s, we had a year with 7.1% average price inflation. And that year, the home prices increased 9.9%. And if you see in the 1980s, 1990s, overall, the home price is able to go up, at least catch up, if not go higher than the inflation rate. So whenever the inflation is high, the public still deem buying home as a good way of holding. And also the Federal Reserve Survey of Household Finance from NAR also shows that homeowners tend to have higher asset and equities through the ownership. So by owning homes, we will be able to develop and build our equity, especially with the increasing price hike these days. For those who do not own a home, their average asset is only about $8,000. And people who have home, averagely their household asset is $320,000. This is the job from February 2022 comparing to the March 2020 pre-pandemic period. How is the job changing from now and the past? Where you see orange is there are job growth, and you will see Utah, Idaho, these places in Texas with job growth. Their housing market also reflects a skyrocketing house market. People are paying top dollars above everyone. And the darker blue, like you see Alaska and Hawaii, because their tourism during the lockdown, they have not been have much job growth. They suffered a lot. But nevertheless, I know Hawaii is still having a lot of house market boom because people are working from home right now. So, but many people use this as a reference of where you want to invest in USA. You want to invest in where there is job growth, where there is population growth. And that's it. That sums up my presentation. Now, as we all have presented our materials, we also want to share our networking resources with our MOU partners. So we encourage you to connect and mingle. For our next speakers, I would like to thank Dr. Jane Youn, Ms. Nancy Liao, Bella, and Mr. Nelson Lee for your informative presentation. And special thanks to our leader in Ling Chao, and Sheng Zhang for inviting our guest speakers. With no more questions, I would like to invite our Global Business Council Vice Chair, Mauricio Capetillo, to close the summit. Mauricio, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. And certainly a big thank you to the participating partners and presenters from Taiwan, Korea, and Hong Kong, respectively. It was certainly an honor to have you all. And to all those that joined us today, we hope you were able to learn more about how to utilize the important global network we at West San Gabriel Valley Realtors has been fortunate enough to nurture and cultivate. And we want to thank you for joining us today. Farewell, everybody. Take care.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great year. Prosperous.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, everybody.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Tom, for a job
Thank
well
you.
done. Thank you, Mauricio, for a great close. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.